the 5 things I love the most about Everdawn, not in any particular order, but they are art, in-person gaming, strategy, storytelling, and no resources. Let's talk about them. All right, so let's start off talking about art. Art's one of the most important pieces of a trading card game, obviously. And our artist, his name is Jonathan Griswold, and he is phenomenal. My wife actually has done some hand-painted pieces for some of our TCGs as well, but the majority of it is done by Jonathan Griswold, and he's phenomenal. He's also done all of our borders and the design. He is kind of the creative designer behind all of our looks. So I kind of have the idea and I'll kind of like sketch it out for him and then send it to him. And then he makes it what it is. And you can see a few of these on screen. We'll throw some of those up. But he's done all of our work and it's been so good. The vibe that we're going for is obviously this kind of like Tolkien-esque, like high fantasy vibe. And all of that's been really fun because I loved that growing up. And so we're really getting to dive into it. I feel like you only really get to experience the most of something when you participate in the creating of it. So it's like receiving it after it's already created, you get to experience a lot of it, but being a part of the creation is the thing that really makes me like come alive. And so being able to do this with this trading card game and take all of the things that I wish I had as a kid and kind of these you know, art pieces and having these ideas in my brain for, years and seeing them kind of come to life in the game is super cool. And so it's really important for me that what I see being brought to fruition is also staying true to the heart of what I had in the very beginning of the feeling that I was hoping to have invoked when looking at this thing in real life. And so I think that Jonathan's done a great job of that. All of our art is really spot on with, what I would hope it would have looked like at the end. And he's actually really great because in the art process and the creation, I've kind of got this idea and there's like this, really awesome ability that he has to take the words and the idea and the random sketches that I can throw together and kind of give it to him. And then he produces back exactly the thing that was in my mind or in my in my heart as I was like trying to put it out on the table for him. So all of our art is really phenomenally well done. He's done an incredible job, pursues excellence in every way. And man, he's done a really good job. So like I said, all of our borders as well. He's gone in and hand drawn. He does it on the iPad. So I guess, is that hand drawn? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is it hand drawn if you do it on the iPad, but you do it with a pen? I don't know. But anyway, he's done all of that. So he's hand created all of the detailing in our border, all of the design on the back of the card. Obviously, he made a custom font and all that kind of stuff. But man, I love the detail of the borders. And actually, it's like you cannot see it in this, but we had some test cards that were printed. And the art is such a big deal for me, but this card that we had printed, I posted a review about it, but the printer was a little faded on the art, and it's really important for me that the details of the border design in each of these cards is able to really pop and you're able to actually notice the details. Not that it would be distracting from the main art piece, but that it would be something that you could really notice and appreciate. And this did not quite do it justice. So we're actually looking at other printers. So yeah, that's our art. We want to stay consistent as well. I know a lot of other games, as they bridge into new decks or starter decks or packs or whatever, they kind of branch off into these different themes as they're creating new product down the line and all of that. And that's fine. And we will definitely do that, but we will not change the art along the way. I think that's one thing that they do for the sake of like trying to be creative, but I think it breaks the world building cohesion that you have when your art just looks totally different in it's the same medium, but it looks different than the previous set. And that's very difficult to kind of get behind, especially when you're trying to create a cohesive story. And so that brings us into the second thing. We'll go ahead and go into storytelling. Storytelling for me is such a big deal, obviously inspired by Tolkien. A lot of this stuff is inspired by Tolkien and what he was able to create. But the thing that I love about storytelling with the TCG is that it kind of kills the idea of net decking. And what I mean by that is like, yes, you want to be competitive. You want to have the best deck possible. But I remember as a kid so vividly taking cards out of my deck and replacing them with maybe even a card that's a little bit weaker in attack or defense or effect than the one that I replaced it with, just because I loved the story behind that card. I mean, I was not trying to like win, thousands of dollars in competition and stuff like that. I was just playing for fun. I was playing for the fun of the game, right? And there were certain cards that I was so attached to that I loved the story and the look, everything about that card and everything behind the creature that was on that card. And so I would put that card in the deck just because I love the art and the story behind it, not just because it was better in stats than the one that I replaced it with. And so that was kind of a consistent thing for me growing up, is that when I was building a deck, yes, I built for strategy and I wanted to win and like beat all of my friends at summer camps and stuff because that was fun. But also, I wanted to build my deck according to the creatures that I felt most connected with, and the card items and things that I felt most connected with. And that was a part of my personality of my deck building. And when you net deck, you lose all of that. You lose the personality of your deck building. And I think that's really important to hang on to. So for us, I think it's really important to continue storytelling. And actually, man, I have a super hot take about this. I think Universes Beyond for Magic the Gathering was kind of the writing on the wall in some sense, because I think that when you have the ability to do great storytelling within the world that you build, that it really, like I said, for the cohesion of world building, it just helps everybody kind of know, like, hey, these are why these cards are important. Now you have cards that are like the rent is due. Like we have random cards in there that break the story. And yes, Universes Beyond, we're trying to bridge into other IPs and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think that if you can stay great with your storytelling, then you also can better fight the battle of power creep and like, okay, we've got to produce a bigger and better card. What's actually, we could produce a card that does pretty much the same amount of damage and has a similar effect to these other ones, but let's just create one that has a better story. And let's sell the story instead of the stats. And I think if you do that, then it helps you against the power creep. And if you don't really storytell very well, then the only way to sell better cards is just to up the stats, up the stats, up the stats, up the stats. And so one of the things that we're going to be committed to from day one in Everdawn is like, we want to storytell. We want to be able to do storytelling as better than any other card game, to let it feel like this is this living world RPG kind of, card game experience, and really lock that in. So all right, let's go. Number 3 is no resources. So I kind of hate resource systems. I know this is like, again, a super hot take, and I'm just kind of throwing these out there. But I really do not like when card games do not reflect the world, do not reflect the fantasy event that it is trying to reflect. So, for example, if I have a fantasy trading card game that is supposed to be representing this battle between my army and this opposing army. So we've got 3 lanes of combat versus their 3 lanes of combat, right? We've got range, melee, mage, and we're trying to create our system and really, support each other and do all that stuff. It kind of breaks the experience a little bit when you are in the middle of this dynamic back and forth battle and things are going, back and forth, and you're trying to be strategic and move your units and attack and all this kind of stuff and cast spells and all of that, when you have to stop and think to yourself, oh, do I have enough resources to play this? And in a real world like battle scenario, and I know that most like other TCGs, not all of them are like, we're going to just do a battle. Some of it is like a big part of the game is resource management, and you're doing all of that, and that's fine. But in ours particularly, the thing that I love about it, I'm not trying to knock other TCGs, I'm trying to tell you what I love about Everdawn. The thing that I love about it is that there is really none of that happening, is that every turn you're doing something to further combat, and you're responding, you're initiating, you're doing something, and you're never in a spot where you have 17 cards in your hand, but you can't play any of them. It's like Mana Screw doesn't exist, right? So at any point in time, you can play a card, you can maneuver something. The only thing that is the restriction in the game, so the only like resource that you could say is really a resource, is space, kind of like chess. So if there's space to move it, I'm going to move it. And now, again, you're not moving pieces across a board. You're playing cards and battling against lanes. but the same principle still applies. You only have a certain amount of space per lane per creature and to equip cards and to attack different cards, and you have a certain reach of combat. And so all of that is kind of a built-in limiting structure. So you can't have no resources and no limiting structure, but you can have no resources and a limiting structure that helps one person not just be able to do all the things all at once, right? You've got to have a pacing and a limiting factor along the way. And I think Everdawn does that super well. So third thing is no resources. Fourth thing, this is becoming more rare, unfortunately, but fourth thing is just in-person gaming. Man, when I grew up, like, again, summer camps around some tables playing Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, and like that's just what we did, and we had so much fun. I have very core memories about sitting at a table with 15 other people, and we're doing this like rotating single elimination tournament, and we just had so much fun. And now it's like you can still do that online if you want to, but you've got kids who are like stuck to an iPad, and if I'm going to build something and I'm going to put all this time and energy into developing this trading card game, then I want it to be something that can actually be good for my kids to play. So I've got 3 young kids, and it's like, I want them to play this game, but I don't want them to be just kind of stuck to a screen, right? I want them to have this like memorable in-person interaction experience that I had growing up, and developing this with the in-person play in mind is just, not even really in mind, but like as the priority, that for us, or for me in particular, is just really exciting. That's one of the things that I just really love about Everdawn, is that, man, we're going to push this kind of in-person play, and like we're going to love local game stores and try to do everything that we can to have local events being pushed as the priority and really celebrate those more than anything else. So in-person gaming, that's number 4. Number five is strategy. So maybe the most important thing for last, right? But I already mentioned the chess idea, but one of the things that I love the most about Everdawn is the strategy. It is such a back and forth type of thing, and it almost feels like regardless of what the field looks like, you always have a way out. It's the feeling of the game is like, man, there's something that I can do to get out of this situation, or to win this battle, or to defeat this creature, but I just don't know what it is. Like, and you're trying to rack your brain, like, I know there's something I can do. And so there's like this, there's this idea, or this feeling of like limitless possibilities. And you kind of feel that in chess some way. Sometimes you're stuck in chess and you kind of sit there and you're like, I know there's something I could do right now. I just don't know exactly what it is. And you get that feeling a lot in Everdawn too, especially with the different combat lane restrictions that we have, where, melee is attacking and counterattacking straight ahead. Range is, has a little bit more distance, and then mage can attack anywhere, right? So we've talked about that in the previous videos. But the idea is that how you build your deck is going to directly impact your strategy, obviously. But then in the middle of your strategy, you have your deck strategy, but then you also have a lane by lane strategy. And then even in that lane by lane strategy, you have this combat advantage triangle manipulation that can happen, where you can change creature's combat style in the middle of combat, or combat type in the middle of combat, and totally flip the interaction on its head. So literally it feels like there's something that can be done at all times. I just have to know what the right thing is. And there's a piece of that strategy that you can really figure out and that you can master within your deck. And there's also a piece of it where it's like, it's a little swingy, right? Where it's like, I'm going to play this card and I'm going to really hope that this person does not have a spell card that can negate this attack or change that attack type, and then, force my creature to die in a counterattack or whatever. So if you don't know the game very well, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about when I say those things. I would encourage you to watch the previous videos to get a good understanding of that. But yeah, number 5, the last thing that I love and really love about Everdawn is the strategy. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We are going to talk more about just kind of the creation of the game. We're going to put out some future videos of gameplay and live duels with other people in our tabletop simulator mod that we use. And we also have a Discord. So if you want to come and learn the game with other people in the community, then make sure to join via the link below in the description. And we'll see you in the next video.